With each passing day, this question becomes more and more important and yet still unanswered. Who does the FBI work for? Because in the last several years, or more accurately, the moment Donald J. Trump came down that golden escalator and announced his presidential candidacy, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, along with our intelligence agencies and Department of Injustice, have seemingly been working to not only take down Trump, but simultaneously to cover for, protect, and even work on behalf of Trump's opponents. And this week, that saga continues. Thanks to a brave FBI whistleblower, we know a file exists linking Joe Biden himself to a criminal scheme involving money for policy decisions during his vice presidency. This file is actually an internal FD 1023 memo created in 2020 and apparently details this $5 million arrangement between Joe and a foreign national. This document allegedly includes a precise description of the scheme and its purpose. Earlier this week, the House Oversight Committee was granted access to the redacted version, only to be viewed from a secure facility within the Capitol. But the FBI still refuses to turn over the file in its entirety. What are they hiding? Who are they really working for? Hillary, Joe, Hunter, Obama, all of them? And it gets worse. According to House Republicans, the FBI whistleblower who bravely sounded the alarm in all of this is reportedly afraid for his life, afraid someone with something to lose in all of this could take him out for what he knows and what he's shared. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene told the DailyMail.com that the foreign nation at the center of this alleged bribery scheme is, wait for it, Ukraine. Knock me over with a damn feather. I'm just shocked. If this is what it sounds like, it's treason. No bones about it. It's treason. Joining me now with his expert analysis is former FBI agent Jonathan Gillum. Jonathan, it's great to have you.
Man, that used to sound really good when somebody would say former FBI agent, but it doesn't really sound good anymore, does it?
I like the former part. The former part is very useful to all of us in the American public that are very confused, scratching our heads really at what's going on here. So I want to break this down a little bit. By the way, Tuesday morning, you were on just ahead of me on Fox and Friends First, so I got a little bit of your take on this. But for my my audience that wasn't up at 5 in the morning, I want to help break this down for them. So there is a file. Finally, we know the FBI has acknowledged that this file exists. These House Republicans in oversight were allowed to look at it from a secure facility with a lot of redactions to it. And now they're saying that the person that blew the whistle on this document is now afraid for their life and the FBI cannot guarantee this person's safety. Break this down for me because it all seems a little wild.
So there's two. Well, first of all, let's start with who's informed who the informant is, right? So there's a confidential human source that gave the information to the FBI, and then when that information was inputted into the database that they have there in the FBI, it generates a form 1023, which is a confidential human source or CHS report form. And it kind of puts everything into a basic format that for people to look at that are on the case. That is the informant that is supposedly in fear for their life. I don't think it's the whistleblower, although I could be wrong. But what I pointed out the other day about that is that when Representative Luna said that he was afraid for his life, whether it's the informant or whether it's the whistleblower, this is the ridiculousness of politics. She's now, reduced that to 50% where we know exactly that it's a man now. So anybody who had contact with Biden since 2020 or before 2020, if they had nefarious contact with him, they can start looking and see who might have informed on them. So these congressmen and women need to keep their mouths closed when they're getting information. They don't get the information so they can spill it. They get the information so that they can then work out this problem. They need to look at it that way. That was the first problem that I had the other day with all this information coming out. But, Tommy, I think it's important that we look at the form. First and foremost, there's so much information within what this form is and how it works and where it's being stored. There's three big forms that the Bureau actually uses or the agents use. And this has changed a little bit since I was in the Bureau, right? So in the FBI, they never get rid of paperwork. They just add more paperwork to make it even more complicated. So in around 2008, we went to a new dialogue, which is the investigative Bible that we use in the FBI. It's all the policies and procedures and laws that we have to follow. Some of them, the policies and procedures are not law. It's what the Bureau comes up with, and so we follow that. So that's the dialogue. A new dialogue was created. And under Mueller and Obama, the Bureau went from law enforcement as the premier law enforcement to the premier intelligence gathering agency next to the CIA. But we basically gathered information. So they told us, and nothing changed in our daily operations, but the information that was being collected was for national security, to protect the nation and domestically, and then share that information also for criminal cases as well. And then there's a 1023, and the 1023 is a CHS reporting form. So like I said before, when I collect information from a source, I input it in the database, and that generates a 1023, which is a newer, I say in the history of the FBI, is newer. I left in 2013, and that had just come online. But now here's where it gets really, really complicated, is that there are new categories or caveats for this CHS reporting, and for the cases that involve these certain confidential human sources. And that's called a SIMS category, a sensitive investigative matters category. It's not a classification, so you're not going to see sensitive or top secret or any of that stuff on there, but it's treated, whenever it's given this caveat, it's treated just like it's top secret SCI, secret compartmentalized information. So only people that are on a roster for this investigation can see that information, even if it's not classified. So something to do with pedophiles, for instance, that has to do with children, that would be considered a SIM. So not just everybody can go in there and see the name of the child. When it has to do, I mean, there's a whole host of these different things, but the one that's very peculiar is public corruption. Somehow public corruption has become mostly housed under SIMS. So if a public official is being investigated, this information gets housed under SIMS, and only the people who are working on that case have the ability to look at it. Anybody else looks at it, they get like a blank screen with X's on it. So what do you see, Tommy, now that you know that, what comes to mind? This has been going on. SIMS got really popular in public corruption around, wait for it, around 6 years ago.
Imagine that.
Now, what happened 6 years ago? That's when Trump started, when he took that ride down that escalator, when he started running for president, when he started getting into his presidency. And so public corruption cases became very protected, and only the people that are working on that case can see that. So now we see how it can be used against somebody like Trump, and how it can be used to protect someone like the Bidens. So what has happened in the Bureau is that it's moved to an information gathering, weaponization, and protection of information and politicians and leftist leaders.
As the average civilian out there, I think I speak for a lot of people who are just really wondering, if there's somebody out there that's saying, I have proof that Biden during his vice presidency was getting millions of dollars in exchange for policy decisions, and we have documentation of this, it feels like it would be the American public's right to know that that was going on, that maybe the FBI should escalate that maybe that would be something worth taking a look at. Now, I get that there's all kinds of protections and there's classified and confidential information, but the fact that we can't get to the core of it and figure out once and for all if this was really happening, when we know that there is a money trail and a paper trail that would actually expose that very thing, how come we can't get there? I mean, you've got House Republicans, House Oversight doing their best, following the money, showing, I mean, in black and white, boom, 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 9 Biden family members, millions of dollars, but we can't seem to connect the dots enough to put somebody behind bars or impeach them or charge them with treason, which is what this really sounds like to me, to the average American. How come we can't get there? Or can we, and it's just going to take a while?
Well, there's two main reasons. Let's say three reasons. One is because the information that we're talking about is protected from other agents that if they saw it, they would say, check this out, which apparently has happened, right? This one agent saw this form and then informed a Congress a person about this. So that's the first problem we have, is that when this information was collected, typically there'd be a preliminary investigation immediately, and we'd see if there was a reasonable suspicion to go forward on this. We don't know if that happened because they say now that it was never verified. So because after we do a preliminary investigation, then we would open up a full investigation if there's evidence of structuring or other crimes that are committed. We don't know if that occurred. Okay, so that's the first problem, is that the FBI is not doing their job. They're being led by ideologues and careerists. The second problem that we have is that we don't have a GOP or our representatives that we put in Washington, D.C., even the Democrats, their representatives, some people that are Democrat, they would love to see if the president was doing illegal things. They would want to know about it. Not everybody that calls themselves a Democrat is necessarily a far left Antifa, rioter, but none of these people are being represented. And the GOP, so I always say that the left is the enemy, but the right is the problem. The GOP, they can't even come together about a budget and decide what the American public needs. And in these cases, they've become sound bites. So these congressmen and congresswomen and senators, they gather enough information, and they only go so far as to what will take them in front of the cameras so they can talk about it and show that they're doing something. Matt Gaetz held up supposedly Hunter Biden's laptop hard drive, a copy of it, and then we never saw it. Well, why didn't we see it? It's not classified. We should have been able to see that. So that is a big problem, is that the representatives are working within the boundaries of what the FBI says they can and can't have. And when the FBI pushes back, they level something like contempt of Congress, which, holds about as much weight as contempt of the Girl Scouts. It doesn't really do much. So
what can they do? I think that's my thing, because I'm watching Jim Jordan and I'm watching James Comer and I'm watching them trying to connect the dots here. And I really do believe, maybe not all of them, but I do believe those two gentlemen are trying to get to the bottom of it. So from your perspective, if they're still playing within the lines and they're not going full blown, what can they do to push this across the finish line that they haven't already done?
Well, there's a third component here, and that's the people. And what you see with the left is that the politicians push a narrative out through media, and then their activists hit the street and they make threats. They go out and will picket, whereas we'll picket a target with our pocketbook. They'll literally go to a target and keep people from getting into that target. So I think the American people need to, when they see something like this, they need to hit streets. And from my experience, what history has shown is that when the people put the pressure on their representatives, somehow the information comes out.
Yeah, I would hope that would be the case. I just don't understand, because they've established such a money trail here. I think that's the part of this. It's like you show the American people 9 Biden family members, including a grandchild, are getting millions of dollars from foreign entities. I mean, what else would they get that for? I mean, they don't have any other marketable skills beyond the Biden name and policy decisions. There's really nothing else that this could be. You don't get millions of dollars from foreign entities because, they like your shoes. That's just not how this works. But my last question for you is this. We know it's going to be an uphill battle to get here. But if we did have, and I'm hoping we do, a President Donald Trump or a President Ron DeSantis in 2024, could they waltz in there? Could they peel back the onion? And could they expose this once and for all, being that they would be in that position as President of the United States?
It's a tough one, Tommy, because Trump didn't do it in his first term because Trump had never been in government before. Now he's been in government, and hopefully he'll see that if he gets reelected, that you can't trust any of the people at the top. There needs to be a clean sweep. I used to say about George Bush when he came in office after Clinton, but we now know that George Bush is pretty far, left with the rest of these people in cahoots with these, Obama and the rest of them. So whoever comes into office is going to have to clean house. And by that, I mean, they're going to have to take the FBI out of Washington, D.C. They're going to have to get rid of the probably over 70, 80% of the attorneys that are far left in the DOD, and get rid of those people and take government back to a neutral stance where it's doing the job that it's hired to do and not ideological movements forward. That is almost impossible that will actually occur. Trump and DeSantis, they need to realize that, one, if we lose Florida, we lose any vote, really. But those two guys need to come together and stop this back and forth nastiness. If they want to compete, then let them both lay out how they think that they can fix things, and let us decide who's best for the job. But this nonsense that they're doing on TV all the time, it is not doing anything to bolster the American conservatives and Democrats and middle of the road people who might vote to save this nation. It's not doing anything to gain that vote. So that's a fight we have to win first. But whoever gets in office then has to make the commitment to fix these things, fix the voting, fix these people at the top, really drain the swamp. Trump didn't drain the swamp. He did a lot of great things, but he did not drain the swamp. And now he's been stuck in it ever since he got out of office. So that has to occur.
Oh, I mean, it sounds like an uphill climb, but it's a fight that's always worth fighting. I mean, if we don't fight the fight, then I don't know what we do. So I guess we hold out optimism. We keep trying to peel back the layers. We have trust in those that are in leadership positions, that they will work for us. And I guess we just have to have some kind of a blind optimism that something's going to change. But thank you for always providing your analysis, especially from a standpoint that most Americans don't understand. They don't get it. So I appreciate your time. Yeah. And I hope to talk to you soon. Maybe we'll have some information one of these days.
I'm always here if we do.